Yeah, it's SpoFi Nation. Welcome back to the SpoFi Media Network. We are incredibly excited to be here today with episode 1 of A Bloop and a Blast, our latest SpoFi show where we're going to cover all things Major League Baseball. As you know, opening day is tomorrow, April 1st. I am incredibly excited, and I could not wait to get this video out. We have a couple of housekeeping notes first. If I look tired, I am tired. I took the MPRE yesterday, but Major League Baseball doesn't sleep, so we got some stuff to get out. But more importantly, thank you guys for the love and support on the last video we did on the Jock Chain about NFTs, NBA Top Shot. It was the first go for us, and we were super excited to put it out. The support and the comments that we got and the feedback was awesome. So thank you guys for sharing that information with us, and hopefully we continue to improve. Tyler, what's up, man? Any housekeeping notes from you?
Just excited for opening day. If I look tired, it's because I have a 3-week-old daughter that does not sleep at night.
You've one-upping me there.
Yeah. Want to give a shout out to the Discord, though, for everybody that's joined that and really started engaging. We're working on building it out, creating the different channels, different topics of discussion. So far, we've only been live for a few days, but there's been great discussion so far. So I want to give a shout out to everybody that's joined that. If you haven't, definitely do it. A lot of good information, a lot of good conversations taking place in there.
For sure, man. And so we're both tired. What do you do when you're tired? You give yourself a nice clean shave, because if you look good, you feel good, and you play good. And tomorrow's opening day. Now, I know what you're thinking, Zach. You're not going to be playing on opening day. You haven't played baseball since high school. And you're probably right. I was an average high school baseball player at best. So no, I'm not talking about playing in the show. That was never going to happen. Tyler, what am I talking about playing?
Talking about playing a little DraftKings fantasy baseball, daily fantasy. So what we're going to be doing this year, keeping it fresh, is a little competition between us two. We're going to join the same DraftKings contest every day throughout the year, and we're going to keep track whether we're up or down, how many contests we've entered, and just keep a running tally and do a little competition between me and Zach to see who is the best DraftKings daily fantasy player between the two. I will say that I focus a little bit more on football when it comes to DraftKings, so this is going to be a little bit more new to me, but I'm excited to dive into the tools and see what we can make happen throughout the year.
Now, don't let him fool you. He's still a DFS pro in my eyes. So what you're looking at here, this is a little example of what you're going to see on our socials every day. So before lock in the GPP, we're going to post each of us our one single bullet lineup that we're going to put in the GPP. And then the next morning, this is what it will look like. We'll post the results. So we'll keep a running tally of how much we've entered on the season and what our return has been. It'll be a little competition between us, but also we'd like to get you guys involved. So I'm not saying you have to post every single DFS lineup you enter, especially the ones that get 0, maybe finish in the bottom of the GPP. But if you win something in a GPP, big or small, whatever it might be, or if your lineup scores well, you play cash, whatever you play, tag us in it. Let us know. Show us up a little bit. Show us how it's done. So following up on this, I do want to talk a little bit about DFS baseball strategy. It's a little bit different than football. It's certainly different than basketball. So let's dive into that here. The first thing to know is that we are going to be playing on DraftKings in terms of this competition that we're doing. DraftKings and FanDuel is different in its scoring. It's different in its lineup construction. So just to clear any confusion, feel free to pause, take a screenshot. This is the different scoring rules and the lineup constructions for DraftKings and FanDuel. So, Tyler, when you're building your DK DFS lineup, what is the first thing that you might look for? For me, I'm going to starting pitching. You got to get a guy in there that you know is going to get strikeouts. What's one of the first things you might look for besides that?
Yeah, so I've been reading up on a little bit, and this is what I used to do whenever I played is start, with starting pitching, starting from the top to bottom. I personally like the strategy of finding one stud that you're confident in for the slate, and then finding somebody with a little bit more value pitcher-wise. And then as far as lineup construction, you're obviously going to be looking for correlation within the lineup. So whether that's stacking a 2, 3, 4 hitters on the same team, or even spreading that out a little bit, 2, 4, 6, somewhere where, if one guy drives in, hits a 3-run home run, you're getting points not only for driving those runs in, but actually the runs crossing the plate. And obviously you can get your projections wherever. A lot of places are going to have similar projections as far as, what they expect the players to do on a day in and day out basis. But the key, especially in GPPs, is getting unique, getting contrarian with your lineup builds. And I think that's, where you can, if you are trying to bank a GPP, that's how it's going to happen, and not, having the best data, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you
by
there.
Data, I mean projections, player projections. Obviously, you need data.
You need a little bit of analytics. I agree with you, especially on maybe taking a risk on a pitcher that could provide a little more value. I have tried on a couple of nights going with the top 2 stud pitchers that are going to get some strikeouts, and then it really is a coin toss whether or not the team that you're stacking, if it's the Pirates, if it's the Rangers, if they're going to score more than 3 runs that night. Because if not, you don't even have a chance, not even with the 2 best pitchers. So it is a bit of an interesting strategy in baseball. This is why it's a little bit different than basketball. Basketball, it's minutes driven. In baseball, you could have a guy batting the 8 hole, right? He only gets 3 at bats, but if he hits 2 home runs and a double in a game, well, you're looking at a guy you need in your lineup if you want to win the GPP. So it is a little luck involved. So that adds to your point a little bit, that it's not all about the numbers and the projections, because the way baseball shakes out, man, even Mike Trout goes 0-4 over 4 some nights.
Right. So, and something I think is a long-term profitable strategy, at least for this season, is probably just stacking whoever the hitters are playing against the Pirates.
and full disclosure, Tyler and I met when we were in Pittsburgh working for the Pirates. So we are fans. We've been around it, and so we have earned the right to dog them a little bit.
Absolutely.
You're right there. Although I do have a little bit of faith in some of the young guys that we're going to be throwing out there.
I've said that for the last 5 years since their wild card runs, and I can't do it anymore. I can't bring myself to possibly defend the team anymore. But you're right. I am excited to see Brian Hayes and maybe O'Neal Cruz. And
the guy has a Cubs shirt on under that Pirate shirt, don't you? He's ready to flip. One, you talked a little bit about correlation, and I prefer to spread out the hitters. The second option you mentioned, maybe 2, 4, and 6, 2, 3, and 5. And the logic behind that, just to break it down a little bit further, is if you have a team that scores 5 runs, well, somebody had to get on base for the next guy to drive them in. It's not the situation where if you have the 2-hole double, right, and the only other guy you have on that team is batting in the 7 spot. Well, realistically, the 2-hole is the guy batting second who led off the inning with a double. He's already scored, or the inning's over before the 7 even comes up. So you want to give yourself a chance to capitalize on having both of those guys in the lineup.
Right. And one other thing too is, obviously team totals play a factor into this. Everybody's seeing who's playing at cores where the totals are, 9, 10, 11, even late in the season. And something you can do to get a little bit more contrarian with that is everybody's going to look to stack the Rockies 2, 3, 4, or 2, 3, 5. Maybe going a little bit further down in the lineup to get exposure to that game, while getting a little bit contrarian in the sense that you're not stacking who everybody else is as well. And then something with the bottom of the lineup, finding, going 8, 9, 1 to get a little bit of exposure to the top of the lineup as well. But those are a little bit more unique lineup builds when it comes to MLB.
You're absolutely right. You bring up a couple of deeper points too, talking about Coors Field, that I look for when building my lineup. So I'll usually check on a player's history versus a pitcher. Now that is by no means determinative, but you take a guy like opening day, right? Manny Machado is facing Madison Bumgarner, and he's had 70 plate appearances against the guy. So it's a pretty good sample size to know, if the guy's a stud against him, if he's not so good against him. So I look at matchups a little bit, but recent form obviously plays a part in it too. In baseball, when a guy's on a streak, we, going back to the Pirates, Kevin Newman just hit like 720 in spring training because everything he was hitting was falling in. It wasn't like he had 10 at bats. The guy had 25 plus at bats, and he hit 720 in spring training. I mean, that's you can't even do that in a video game to me. So when a guy's on a roll, a guy's on a roll. But to that point, you find recent form, you find field, you find weather conditions that are in your favor when you're trying to build some of these lineups. So,
and question for you is ownership. How do you go about or factor in ownership at all whenever you're building DFS lineups? I know for me, for football at least, it's one of the first things that I look at is ownership, and finding a good source for that. I know is difficult for for football. Something we probably need to look into. I need to at least look into a little bit more is finding a good source of ownership for baseball.
Yeah, I don't worry about ownership too much unless my main team stack is the Dodgers or the Yankees or a really good hitting offense playing at Coors Field. Because in that situation, those offenses are going to be priced up to the point where every player on DraftKings is $5,000 to roster. And then that means the only other guys that fit in your lineup at that point are the guys from the bottom tier teams, the guys from the offense who are not. So, having a Dodgers stack mixed with a Pirates stack is probably the most common play. So I care about ownership if I'm going to target the Dodgers. But if you do target the Dodgers and you decide to maybe have somebody other than Cody Bellinger and Mookie Betts in your stack, then I still don't worry about it too much. There's so many ways that these things can shake out, and pitchers sometimes are the differentiator. You'll know, there's a stud who's going to be projected for however many points because he's facing an offense that strikes out a lot, and it's Garrett Cole.
Right.
And then you'll have a guy who is, he's $5,000 to roster at the pitcher spot, and everybody's going to take a gamble on him. So for the most part, there's an easy way to get contrarian, and I don't worry about ownership too much.
Yeah, and it's obviously going to depend on what kind of tournament you're entering as well, whether it's on 150 max or 20 max, or you're building a cash lineup. Those things will factor in more depending on what tournament you're entering. Yeah,
and for this contest between you and I, we're going to be, or you and me, you and I, English, not the strong suit.
One of the two.
Yeah, between us. Okay. So we're going to be doing DraftKings GPP. We're going to be doing the same one every day. Still undecided, and we'll have to see what contests shake out. But when we post our lineups, you'll know that it's for a pretty large scale GPP that we're going after. So if you see some plays that you question, just know we might be trying to get a little contrarian there. So let's move on. Happy to answer any DFS questions in the Discord as we go, but let's move on and talk about the current state of Major League Baseball. There are some things that have been happening over the past couple of years, experimenting with pitch clocks, runners on second base, and extra innings. A couple of things are here to stay. 7 innings in the second game, or 7 innings in double headers. What is your take on the current stance of Major League Baseball in terms of rules, in terms of media, everything like that?
They're just behind the times. It's almost laborsome and tiring to be a hardcore baseball fan. You can't even post highlights on Twitter or anything like that. It's just they don't want to progress, it seems like, and that's the most frustrating part. Whenever they have such talent right now that they could be marketing, they have a marketing machine in the players that exist right now, and they just, that's the thing with baseball. Mike Trout's might be the best baseball player of all time, and 50% of America might not even recognize him walking down New York City. So it's just
that is a shame.
I don't think they want to progress, which is a shame, but who knows?
Yeah, I feel like it's that constant fight between the old baseball heads that are such traditionalists and want things kept the way they are, and just the new wave of sports and society in general. Guys in the NFL used to score a touchdown and turn around and hand the ball to the ref. And sure, my grandpa still applauds those guys, but right. I like seeing a touchdown celebration here and there. So I'm here for the bat flips. I'm here for everything. Trevor Bauer has been made out to be this villain because he pushes the boundaries. I love what he's doing for the game. I agree. And, he's got people talking, whether it's good or bad. Tatis brings this level of baseball swag that just is unheard of. Kids are 7 years old, wearing arm sleeves like him and just to get a little bit of that baseball swag that he has. So I agree. They're just so far behind on the times. They're trying to hold on to this traditionalist approach. And for me, it's just not working.
Yeah, and their fans are aging out, and I mean they just need to lean into what's going to entertain and bring the younger audience into the game, because I mean they're going to need it here soon.
Yeah, you either love baseball or you don't care. There's no in between, in my opinion. So
that's very true.
So I know we obviously are Pirates fans. Just want to throw out, if you're a fan of any other team, if there's any other team that you want to be watching this year, just the Padres are going to be fun. The Dodgers, of course, are going to be fun. Who are some teams that you'll enjoy watching this season?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of fun teams. I am a Pirates fan at heart, and as much as I want to crap on them, I will still tune in to AT&T Sportsnet every 7 o'clock during the week. But as far as teams that I am excited to watch, I'm a big Braves fan, and that might give away a little something with my World Series pick. But I love Ronald Acuna Jr. That team to me is fun to watch. You mentioned the Padres, what they're building is incredible. All the moves that they made in the offseason. And I mean, as much as you don't want to say the Dodgers because they're just the bully that exists right now, I mean, that team is loaded. So it's going to be exciting to see whether they can live up to that potential, because I feel like in baseball, sometimes those super teams fall short of expectations, but it's going to be hard to see them do that just with the sheer amount of talent that they have.
For sure. My favorite team to watch whenever I get a chance, aside from the Pirates, is the Angels. And it's simply because of Mike Trout, but it's so hard to watch sometimes because especially when they're home and they're playing on the West Coast, the games don't start till so late. But sometimes before I go to sleep at night, I'll put the Angels game on just to see Mike Trout hit in the first inning. It reminds me of when I was younger and Barry Bonds used to come to the dish, and it was almost like every time the guy was hitting, it was must-see television. Mike Trout's got a little bit of that. Bryce Harper's got a little bit of that. So I enjoy watching some of those players specifically take swings.
And with the Angels too, I'm a big Shohei Ohtani fan. I'm excited to see what he can do coming back from, Tommy John surgery. I know the plan is for him to pitch and hit. I know he mentioned that he wants to hit in games he pitches, which I love. I think Duke can be an absolute monster if they can figure out, I know last year they did that kind of 6-man rotation, not last year, 2 years ago when they did that 6-man rotation with him to get him comfortable with what he used to do. I think they can break him out of that shell. He'll be something serious to watch. And I mean, how can you not be a MVP favorite if you're one of the best at both sides of the plate?
If you hit 320 and you hit 300 and you're winning 15, 20 games. Yeah, absolutely. He hit pretty well in spring training, and I know those numbers don't really count, but it's still encouraging to see that hopefully he's getting back on track with both.
And I'm a little biased too, because I'm in a dynasty baseball league that I've been with for 8-9 years now. So he was my big prized draft a few years ago. So he's been kind of sitting, waiting in my wings, but I'm excited to watch him this year.
I don't even want to know how an 8-year dynasty league works. Are you guys like recruiting 7-year-olds at the local park or what? I mean, come on, man. That's
my buddy Jimmy. He puts his time in on Reddit, on all kinds of different baseball forums to find guys all over the country. We have a pretty solid core now, but 14 team, 30-man rosters. I know that's only scratching the surface of how deep dynasty baseball leagues can go. But for me, it's enough.
Well, I'm going to stay far away from that. Let's talk about some division winners that we like. This is not so much that we're putting bets on in terms of having money on the line, because I think for the most part, we can agree that the Dodgers are the clear favorites to win the World Series, and, picking them to win the division, picking them to win the World Series is pretty easy. But let's go through here and talk about who we like from the American League, who we like from the National League to make a serious run and make it to the World Series. So I'll kick it off here. From the American League, my pick to make it to the World Series is the Twins. They have been in the playoffs, I believe, 3 out of the last 4 years, and they have some guys who have just been there and done it. And I absolutely love Nelson Cruz. I mean, the guy rakes, and They have guys who can get on base. They have guys who can hit the long ball. They have some decent pitching. So my pick to win the American League is the Twins. Who are you taking from the AL?
So I'm going to stick in the AL Central, and I'm going to say the Chicago White Sox. I mentioned that Dynasty Baseball League. I also have Eloy Jimenez. Obviously, he went down with the pec. He's going to be out for 5-6 months, I believe. But I like what they're doing with Robert, not Soroka. Who's their stud pitcher? Giolito, sorry.
Yeah, he no hit the Pirates last year.
Right, well, yeah, right. I like what they're putting together. I think Eloy's going to come back down the stretch and help them put them over the top with a playoff push. So I'm going to stick with the Central with the White Sox.
That'll be a pretty competitive division, but I don't think it'll be the most competitive division in baseball. I think that belongs in the National League, and my pick to make it to the World Series from the National League coming out of that division is the Nationals. Now, I know that might be a little bit of a shock. The Nationals weren't great last year. All that's true. And Strasburg, will he be healthy this season? Who knows? But the truth is that those guys still have pitching. Juan Soto is absolutely incredible. And they have some guys who can fill in. They got Josh Bell and Ryan Zimmerman, who are probably going to be platooning over at first base, depending on the pitcher. Trey Turner, in my opinion, is one of the better shortstops that nobody talks about. I really like Victor Robles in center field. So I think they have a good chance of turning some heads, especially if the pitching stays on track. They added John Lester, a guy who's been there and done that for several years. So I'm taking the Nationals out of the National League. Who are you going with?
So I'm going to stay in the NL East. We're liking the same divisions. I'm going to go with the Braves. I mentioned, big fan of Ronald Acuna Jr. I was already thinking about the Braves whenever I mentioned Mike Soroka. They brought in Ground Chuck, electric stuff. Charlie Morton, former Pirate. Really excited to see what he can do. Their staff, to me, is one of the best in baseball. And if they can hit like they did last year, I like them to not only make the World Series, but to win it.
I see what you're doing there. Yeah, they have a really good team. And they were a few pieces away last year and for making a serious push. And they have some great young pitching too. So no doubt they are a contender. Transitioning the picks into a little bit about betting. I did put a futures bet. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. I was going to say I did put a futures bet on the Nationals to win the World Series. So not only are they my pick to make it there, but I have them beating the Twins in the World Series. Are you looking to put any skin in the game in terms of a futures bet on your World Series pick? And then if so, or if not, let's talk about betting baseball as a whole.
Yeah, so I am probably going to stay away from any futures at this point just because, we're just a day out from the start of the season. I didn't do too much digging in the offseason and any value that I would have liked based on offseason transitions or acquisitions, things like that. Probably value's a little bit gone now. So I'm going to stay away from the futures. But as far as baseball betting, I know we are working on something behind the scenes as far as, a model, and also a player props model. So that's actually where I got my start with modeling sports is baseball, and based on Joe Pita's trading bases, which right here you can see. And can we talk about that a little bit? You're absolutely obliterating me when it comes to the bookshelf game. I see a little color coding back there. You got some law school books.
Yeah, so if I may explain, okay, my fiance is the one, and I apologize. They decided to cut the grass right outside the apartment window today. So if the noise is coming through,
all good.
I'm sorry about that. The bookshelf. Yeah, my fiance, we were doing a little spring cleaning. I had just school books here, reading books here, and she came in one day and she said, you know what? Color coded it is. So I wish I could take credit for that. That is not me.
Gotcha. Well, you're crushing me right now, so I'm going to have to figure something out. But yeah, anyways, back to baseball. That's where I got my start with modeling sports, and it was successful. It was just extremely time consuming and cumbersome. And I really didn't have that much of an automated process. I was sitting there just manually entering every single player from every single lineup before lock. Because to me, you can assume who's going to be in the lineups and things like that But I'm not a fan of that. If I'm going to put money behind something, I want to know exactly who's playing. I want to know the whole picture. I don't want to just go off of estimates and, who might be in the lineup, things like that. But as far as baseball, like I said, we're working on something behind the scenes. We'll have something here in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully look to go back to that old process and get it a little bit more automated.
Absolutely. We'll have a little something going on every day. One other bet, just to throw a little teaser out there for anyone listening, and I do not have any, that would be my dog. I do not have any money on this. But one thing that I saw just when playing through the lines and stuff that was super interesting to me is a bet on who's going to have the most hits in baseball. I've mentioned the Twins. I like them a lot this year. And one of the pieces they have, Luis Arias. Hey, champ. Thanks, buddy. One of the pieces they have, Luis Arias, I don't even know if he's going to be starting on opening day. He could play second. He could play left field. But the guy simply doesn't get out at the dish. He has no power, but he does not strike out. He just fouls them off, and puts them in play. And eventually, if you put the ball in play enough, you're going to get some hits. So last time I checked, he was 50 to 1 odds to lead the league in hits this year. If he's playing every day, which is something we'll keep an eye on over the first couple of weeks. If he's playing every day, I really like that and might look into it again. So stay tuned in that if that's something you're a little interested in.
And I will trust your gut.
Okay. The last thing to cover here on our show today, a little bit of hypothetical situation. Obviously, we talked about NBA Top Shot on the Jock Chain. What is the possibility for Major League Baseball to get into the NFT space? Do you think it would be successful? And what would you name the Top Shot equivalent for Major League Baseball?
So I do think they will get into the game. It's inevitable at this point. I think all the major sports are going to get into it at some point or another. Now, I do also think that baseball will be the last to get into the game since, back to our discussion about how not up to the times they are. Can't even really post highlights on Twitter if you're not a player or whatever their stance is on that. So I do think they will get into the game. It might be a while. They might be the last ones to arrive. As far as names, I was thinking I would say MLB Diamond Gems. Little play on MLB Web Gems.
I like that.
And then obviously, little diamond hands. You got the diamond on the field. So I'm going to go MLB Diamond Gems would be what I name the NBA Top Shot version for Major League Baseball.
I like Diamond Gems a lot. And the first Diamond Gem that I would get is Josh Bell's first game coming in against the Cubs and getting a base hit when we needed it the most. So
I loved it.
That was really cool to be there for that game. So that would be one that I go after right away. I do think Major League Baseball will get in the NFT space. My only concern, and I guess this isn't a concern if NFTs are here to stay, but I'm concerned that they might miss the wave because, again, they're just behind on everything. So if UFC Flow comes out the end of this year, and the NFL, we've already heard they're working on some stuff. If all these major sports and IPOs, Pokemon and Disney and Marvel, they all have NFTs, and Major League Baseball is still 2 years behind all of that, where's the market going to be? Is that further going to drive the baseball market into the cardboard scene, like, and further, segment the traditional baseball theory, traditional collectors, that kind of thing. So I'm just that's my main concern with it all. Final thoughts on baseball NFTs before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting, and I think it's something that we're going to touch on our next episode, the Jock Chain, is the cardboard scene. With I'm not sure if you saw PSA and their announcement of the backlog that they have minting cards and how they're not even resuming services until I believe sometime in July.
July. How absurd is that? Do you know how many times a LeBron James moment will be sold back and forth between now and July? And we got to wait until then to get a card graded from PSA. I mean,
yeah, we can do a little bit more of a deep dive on that on the next episode of the Jock Chain. But I mean, that ruffled some feathers for some cardboard collectors for sure. And, we can talk about how, the digital NFT scene that kind of solves those issues that people in the cardboard scene run into.
Immediately solves it. So stay tuned. We'll have that episode coming out soon. Thank you guys so much for the support. Again, if you enjoyed today's video, if you enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe to us on Spotify. We'll have the Apple Podcast link up shortly. Follow us on socials at SpoFi HQ, and join our Discord and be a part of this community that we're building. We appreciate it, guys. We'll catch you in the next one.